We've got the dogs, everybody. We were standing talking to those good people over there, and the dogs have come running along here. I can't. The guys behind us are pointing. They're going to come down here, I think. Have you got them, Dave? They're still coming down this way. Can't see any movement. There they are. I just saw them. Just saw them moving. All right, here we go. Isn't this wonderful? Here they come. They're coming down through here, Dov. There they are. There they are. I think they're going to go straight to Twin Dams. I just want to try and get a view before we go down there, because here they are, right here in front of us now. Marvellous stuff. Get my fat bonce out of the way. Wonderful. Isn't this just the best? Now, I think this is that alpha male that we identified yesterday in this little pack. Here come the rest of them. Oh, and I think our recalcitrant friend, remember there was the very lazy sort of type Z wild dog coming down yesterday, and he was right at the back all the time. This is marvellous. Look at them all running past us. The youngsters, 3 youngsters. Yeah, no, there's the Omega at the back there. That's the fellow. This is fantastic stuff. Right, let's just stop here. I think they're probably going to go down towards Twin Dams. I hope that they don't go to the south. It will be dreadfully sad if they do, because we're right now on the southern boundary, in case you're wondering. Now, we will do an action broadcast to Facebook if these fellows don't go to the south. So let's just wait and see what happens for that. I feel a little bit sorry now, because Steve's just pulled up behind us on the road, and unfortunately, well, these dogs gave him the slip today. Now they're going south, I'm afraid. Just get these fellows here. It's very sad. They are going into Little Gowrie, I'm afraid. They might have a bit of... And you never know. Or stop to have a drink. Do a big swing around of... That's as good as we're going to get. I'm sorry about the signal breakup, everybody. There's nothing we can do, I'm afraid. Oh, this is just special. And I can smell them, and they're going to smell even worse after they've been in that muck, which is great. Can't believe we've had them 3 days in a row now. No, 2 days in a row, 3 drives in a row, 4 drives in a row. Oh, very, very special. Apparently there is a smudge on the lens, David. Sorry about that. That'll be because of my driving, not because of David's what's the word I want? Not tardiness. No, never mind. Let's just look at the wild dogs. Ah, this is great stuff. Right, well, let's see what they do. We can't go further towards where they are, but they could very, very easily turn on and come back towards Djuma. You can hear the beautiful sounds of the red-billed buffalo weavers. Oh, Bobby, you say you want to feel their fluffy tails and ears. Well, Bobby, I would wash my hands after I did that. I think they're quite dirty fellows. But yes, I could certainly imagine myself sort of in close communication with a wild dog. I've always, I don't know why I've had this dream. We have a dog in Kenton where I go to see my parents, and he loves to run. And we run on the beach together, and I've often thought to myself, can you imagine people's faces if you were running down the beach with one of these things? And how wonderful that would be. But, of course, dogs love to run. They run much further than we do, and I think it would be quite difficult to maintain a wild dog in that sort of situation. And so, yes, it would be nice to feel their fluffy tails, I suppose, but they are apparently not domesticatable. Now, I think you'll find, this is a very interesting discussion while they sit there doing not much. What I think you'll find is that if you were to try and domesticate them, I think you probably could eventually. Wolves were domesticated some 10,000 years ago, I think. It was that long ago. And basically, if you took a wolf out of the wild now, it would, I think, behave in much the same as one of these wild dogs do. But over the course of generations, of course, they've selectively bred, human beings selectively bred to the most tame-natured of wolves that eventually became the dogs that we have today. Everything from the magnificent Staffordshire Bull Terrier to the slightly lamentable Chihuahua come from wolves. Now, I don't think that in Africa that attempt was ever made, simply because it was probably just not worth it. And so if you were to go through that same process and spend the amount of time that they did with wolves early on, I think you'll find that you probably could domesticate them eventually. That is not to say that we're ever going to try and do that. But a lot of people will say, well, you can't domesticate them. I don't think anyone's ever really tried. In one generation, yes, probably not possible. Over the course of 20 generations of selectively breeding, the calmest ones, or the ones who like to be the most sedentary, yeah, well then maybe. For example, that Omega dog at the back, who has definitely got the complete polar opposite of a type A personality. Janet, we had a long discussion on this yesterday, and the reason I say that is not because I don't wish to answer the question again. It's simply because it's quite difficult to answer. You say, what's the average lifespan? Well, in Kruger, apparently about 70% of the dogs, I may have said 80 last night, but I think it's 70% of the dogs are younger than 5 years old. So what that means, of course, is that they very seldom live beyond 5 years. I think they probably have a potential lifespan of around 10. That would be my guess. We're very lucky that they're hanging around here, I must say, and not disappearing off to do their hunting, which I think they will do eventually. Well, now that's a fascinating question from Miguel. I've said that nobody's made the effort to try and domesticate them, and you say, is it perhaps worth trying to selectively breed them in order to preserve the species? Wow. So let's pretend that we don't capture dogs in the wild because we have sufficient of them in zoos around the world. And I don't think they're being selectively bred for their sort of natures. But maybe if we did do that, I don't think that it's even possible for them to mate dogs. So were we to have domesticated African wild dogs, it may well not compromise the species at all. Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. I wonder if anybody's thought of that. So one day, in a few years' time, maybe I will be running down the Kenton beachfront with a wild dog, sending people scattering in all directions. I just think they are the most wonderful creatures, as I'm sure all of you do. Yeah, Biana, absolutely. You say, does the Omega get bullied? Absolutely, it gets bullied. It's almost the very definition of an Omega dog. Same as in a baboon troop, actually, and same as in a hyena clan. Animals that are not dominant and that do not have the ability to assert themselves do get bullied to a certain extent. I think you'll find that it's probably far less prevalent in a species like wild dogs. And that's because they tend to live a slightly more egalitarian life. So they do look after each other. They've spotted something in that waterhole. I suspect another lizard, the likes of which we found earlier today. Now, I'm going to warn you, I think we may well have to move out of this sighting because there are thousands of people here, or descending. There are about to be huge numbers of vehicles scuttling into this area as fast as they can. Oh yes, Scarlett, they do. You say, do wild dog packs ever receive a name? Yeah, they do. I just don't know what this pack is. We have the Investec pack. I think Investec was the bank in South Africa, gave some money to wild dog research, and so they were called the Investec pack. We've got the Angama. This might be the Angala pack, actually. They come, well, they were sort of first named at Angala, which is where I cut my bush teeth, about 50 kilometers to the north of where we are now. Yeah, so they do get named often after the area in which they're most often found. Now we've got a couple of punters driving up in a Volkswagen of some sort, waving very happily at everybody. They're not part of the sighting, so we don't have to leave. Paula, you want to know if I've ever seen wild dog pups? Yes, I've seen wild dog pups many times, but the time that sits in my mind is at Angala. In my second year of guiding there, maybe in my first year actually, they had a den at Angala, and we spent months going in and out, watching the tiny little things from the day they were born until they left the den and left the reserve. And I mean, we had a big reserve. There was about 15,000 hectares we had, and even that space wasn't enough to contain them, so they disappeared after about 2 or 3 months. But we had a wonderful time. We used to arrive there freezing cold winter's mornings before the sun came up. You had to get up very early, drive there, and sit there shivering before the adults got up to go hunting. Because if you didn't do that, you'd miss the pups. The pups would come out with the adults just before they went hunting, and then what they did was they'd go back inside as the adults went off hunting, and then you'd have to wait for the adults to come back. All right, just before one of these dogs does what the one on the left is doing, which is, of course, having his constitutionals, let's go across to Steve, who has got a hyena. With the painted dogs still, nobody else is coming. We can spend as long as we like until they disappear. Distressingly seem to have a semi-flat tyre at the back. And it's becoming less and less semi-flat as time continues. Never mind, I'm sure we can fix it in due course. Now, James Richard, who's knowledgeable in such things, says that these are... what's the matter, Dave? This is how I protect my face from the sun. It says this is the Investec pack, so thank you, James Richard, for that. It is very kind of you to keep us posted. And then a question... Oh. Excuse me, we're leaving the dogs. There's a baby leopard over here. We're live. Oh, I must have pulled my... No, I didn't. Hello? Okay, well, we're live. Kirsten, just give me a sound check again, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, no. Not working. Anyway, we're back with the dogs. David will tell me if we lose our signal, or if we're not live anymore. The cat is just behind us, not far away. thankfully moving slowly away from these hounds, and wouldn't really be in any danger because, well, what she would do is... No, I'm getting no sound at all. What she would do is just climb a tree. She's well big enough now to climb a tree. There we go. Now I've got her back. I don't know what happened there. Never mind. We're back with the dogs. And unfortunately there is now another vehicle pulling in. We might have to think about leaving. Yeah, I think we probably will. Let's just sit here for a few minutes. We don't have long left in the drive, so I think we'll sit here for a few more minutes. Just make sure that they don't cross to the north onto Djuma, because if they do, then we'll just extend the drive and keep following them. But you see, they're getting up to move now. Just beautiful stuff. Alright, I'm sorry about the breakup on the picture. It is because we are quite close by to the very southern boundary and the lowest point. We are aware of it and very sorry for any, inconvenience that it is creating. If they run along the road, I'm not going to follow them. Interesting behavior that we've seen here. Once they get moving, they normally actually move. Apparently our signal is too awful. Let's go back to Steve. I'll hang around in a better signal area and see what happens.